Hi, I'm Dave, and I know wrestling. Do you want a wrestler that's nowhere near as good as the internet makes him out to be? Do you want a wrestler that's nowhere near as bad as the internet makes him out to be? And do you want a wrestler that really should point out to fans how pointless these arguments are? Then allow me to introduce to you my client for Dave Knows Wrestling's Honest Promos, Dave Meltzer's pet project, proof that not all Canadians are technical wizards, New Japan's Jinder Mahal, Tyson Smith, or Kenny Omega. Behold, a wrestler that your nerdiest friends refer to as the greatest of all time, and a wrestler that the rest of your friends refer to as... who? Or sometimes as... I thought you said this guy was Japanese. At any rate, Tyson gave up pursuing a career in hockey in order to become a professional wrestler, and that is the most Canadian sentence I've ever heard outside of a Tim Hortons. And while he has been wrestling since a very early age, there are a lot of people out there who say that he still has a lot to learn. Now yes, if you're a fan of traditional, logical, Western in-ring style storytelling and selling moves for longer than... that long, then no, Tyson is probably not the guy for you. Now yes, I am aware that there are some people out there who say that if you think Tyson is no-selling, it's only because you don't know what fighting spirit is. But I'm also aware that there are others who would retort that if you think that's what Tyson is doing, it's only because, well, you don't really know what fighting spirit is. Although, at the same time, I will say there are plenty of his detractors that are just way too critical when it comes to him. Like nitpicking the little stutter step he takes before he hits the ropes. Come on, I know you think it's a major safety issue and all, but let's be real, happy feet aren't the reasons why there are so many injuries right now. So perhaps, some of you out there might try not scapegoating him as the cause of everything wrong with wrestling today. Because you really can't ruin an entire industry if barely anybody's watching you. The point of the matter is, if you want to attack Tyson as a wrestler, he's really giving you no shortage of other things to talk about. After all, he wrestled a little girl and a blow-up doll, which is a sentence that contains way too many things that shouldn't be mentioned together. But I do have to say, for someone who is admittedly such an avid video game nerd, I get the feeling that that wasn't his first time with an inflatable partner, if you catch my meaning. I'm saying he doesn't get to pull the V-trigger a lot. Moving on. A lot of people tend to forget that Tyson spent much of his career in the undercard, as it wasn't until Dave Meltzer broke his rating scale for Tyson's match against Kazuchika Okada that many fans even knew who he was. Or pretended like they did at least. Oh, but not you, random commenter. I know you always knew who he was. Now, that aside, you do have to give Tyson credit for one thing, as he did make quite a notable name for himself outside of WWE, and looking back on it, you might wonder if WWE regrets torturing Tyson while he was a part of their developmental program. It doesn't matter. With his behavior, I'm pretty sure it's his fault why he was treated the way that he was. I mean, after all, it's not like Bill DeMott has a reputation of being a horrible... Oh yeah, right. Hold on though, because Tyson really can't be that mad at the E, because remember, he did appear on Up Up Down Down, which is owned by WWE, and he's not even signed to them. Wait, does that make him an actual WWE independent contractor? Going back to Tyson's early days, do you remember when he screwed over both Jim Cornette and Ring of Honor by not showing up to wrestle because he decided that he'd rather attend the sports awards instead? Well, at least he was nice enough to send a not safe for work email to Jim Cornette to explain his absence. And besides, you figure Corny would be over that stuff by now. After all, he does make a living from talking smack about Tyson. Which, ultimately, whether you want to admit it or not, is going to be Tyson's greatest contribution to the industry. Between Cornette, Meltzer, and the rest of the IWC, love him or hate him, his biggest legacy is always going to be getting wrestling critics over. In the end, if you want a wrestler who can make a boring knee sound cooler just by naming it after something in a video game, a wrestler whose promo voice sounds like a thirsty Batman who's stuck in a library and trying to whisper, and a wrestler who doesn't see the irony in saying that old wrestling practices are irrelevant while he's currently sitting out injured, then allow me to introduce to you my client for Dave Knows Wrestling's Honest Promos, Seth the Rolf Rollins, Tyson Fatal Fury, the Canadian Industry Destroyer, Tyson Smith, or Kenny Omega. You know, I've heard of putting over younger talent, but this is ridiculous.